You are in the Warriors Huddle with me, Bram, and with me, per usual, my boy and producer MT.
What's up, Dev Nation?
MT, how's it going, man? How's your offseason treating you so far?
It's going well. I mean, we're seeing all the deals and trades and every rookie extensions happening, and we're getting a little nervous. So I'm sure we'll talk about that in a second. But off the court, it's going well. I'm enjoying it. It's been a little cold here, but Bay weather, first world problems where it's only 60 and we're complaining.
Every single time a deal is announced, it gives kind of context, so like you feel bad for people. I felt bad when Jordan Poole, got punched in the face and got thrown out of here. You kind of feel bad that JK isn't being given like larger numbers. Like you feel like you kind of get to know these guys. And then when it doesn't go the way they'd want it to go, you feel bad for them, like personally. And then when you look at the fucking money that they're making, you realize that if they woke up in either of our lives tomorrow, they would be disgusted. They'd be disgusted by my house. They'd be disgusted by the car I drive. They'd be disgusted by the restaurants I frequent. They'd be disgusted by like the amount of money I have to throw towards like toys and recreational activities. Like these motherfuckers make more money in a month than I'm probably going to see over my career, which kind of hedges like, oh, I think they'll be okay. Like
Yeah.
if he's got to spend a couple years in Washington, who gives a shit? They're fine.
Yeah. He would immediately be like, punch me in the face again because I cannot handle this.
You need to trade me out of this middling home in the fucking Oakland foothills. Like, this is not for me. Send me to any team. I will play in fucking China. Just get me out of Bram's
Exactly.
circumstance immediately. Well, we would normally start, man, with the glass half full, but that requires Warriors moves. So like fucking glass half full has you look back at something that's happened in Warriors land and give a, upside, downside. From what I can tell, and this is like after a lot of research, the only news I could find is that Jimmy Butler may or may not open up a pop-up big face coffee shop here in the Bay Area. In fact, it sounds like it's going to happen. But I don't give a fuck about the upsides or downsides on that, man. So no glass half full. In fact, I'm going to be creative here, Marcus. Pick an icon is what I'm going to call this segment. So here's what I mean by it. If you talk to Warriors fans right now, they seemingly fall into one of two camps. And there's like varying degrees of it, but really there's kind of a big bright line. One camp is viewing Mike Dunleavy as Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's, as a guy who's just fucking fallen asleep at the wheel, has made zero moves at all, and is being carried forward by Steph and by Draymond and by the people who've already on this team. We'll call them Camp A, the Bernie camp. The other camp, maybe looking for optimism, is viewing Mike Dunleavy closer to Hannibal Lecter, a guy who's very limited by his circumstance, in this case, CBA, not maximum prison, but is secretly waiting, understands the limits of what he can do, and is going to wait for the exact moment to strike, and then he will, So it's kind of the long view. There's nothing immediate because he couldn't, but something's coming. Where do you fit on this, man? Like, how are you experiencing the lack of moves so far?
It's tough. I mean, you see all the players moving around in the West reloading, and every season we're like, oh, the West got tougher. And I think you say it again this season, like the West is deep. Um, but to be fair to Mike D, I think it's closer to the Hannibal Lecter icon or character. The He's limited in what he can do. The amount of money that Steph, Draymond, and Jimmy are making, you're not going to break up that
Yep.
triumvirate, until they have a full healthy season underneath their belt. And the way we played at the end of the season when we were healthy, is a good enough sample size to say it worked. So it makes sense not to be able to make any big moves, but he just, and then JK's contract situation where you don't get the full value of it in a trade until after December. So, um, like Mike D did a good job with Pods and TJD and Quentin Post. We'll see how Tui and these current draft picks play out. But I think you got to give him the benefit of the doubt, give him a little more Hannibal Lecter, maybe not full Hannibal yet, but um, we're cautiously optimistic. And I'm just have my fingers crossed that he has a move coming where we sign a few of the veteran free agents that are floating around out there. There's rumors about Horford and Melton. And, if we can package up JK and bring back somebody better than a package of Devin Carter and 2 second round picks,
My
then
God.
yeah, then I think it'll the patience will pay off. And similar to how Steph was saying it last season during the playoffs, like that you have to control the emotions, right? Like right now we're in an emotionally vulnerable state where we're seeing everybody reload and it's just not our turn yet.
Just working backwards. If I'm JK, I would like that news to not have been reported. Like they're not going to take that trade. They're nowhere close to taking that shit. But if I'm trying to get a real contract and like establish who I am, I don't need the Carter and 2 second round pick thing even being published anywhere. You're like fuck you. Like that. I don't need someone to be like, yeah, my firm almost traded me for a used ink cartridge, and they said no. I don't need to be associated in that trade in any way.
Yellow ink cartridge at
You know,
that
it's
too.
like, what the fuck? They don't even write in yellow ink. Like, why'd you announce that?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the Hannibal Lecter thing. I don't know if it's because I'm just looking for optimism, but the Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal Lecter wanted to eat that warden's face. He wanted to eat his liver with farver beans in the beginning, but he couldn't. He was behind fucking bars, and so he had all of these things that had to happen beforehand before he could make the move at the end of the movie. I'm sure that Dunleavy would like to make splashy moves right now. But the way the CBA works and the way that restricted free agency works with JK, there's all of these things that have to happen first before he can make the moves. And I think that's why we're seeing rumors like, well, they might have a deal already kind of worked out with Horford, and they might have a deal already worked out with Melton, and they got to figure out these other things because he understands the path that you have to follow. I'm a little worried that even if those moves happen, they may not elevate us to the place of like where OKC is. But do I think there's a plan that's pseudo in place? I do. I do. And I'm hoping it comes together. Quick, I don't know, what's the opposite of a shout out to Al Horford? Like, so the news has been up until now is that, the least kept secret in all of free agency is that the Warriors and Al Horford have mutual interests and the deal is pretty much already done. The most recent version I've heard of that is that actually there's two options for Al Horford. Option number one is Golden State. Option number two is fucking retirement. Is it cool if he didn't announce that? It's like just retire if you're going to retire. The same way I don't need my name announced in the ink fucking cartridge trade. I don't need to know that he's considering retirement too. Dude. We already have like old considerations. I don't want that word associated with him.
Yeah. Yeah. There's been a few reports, and you have to wonder, like, do the Warriors leak the Sacramento trade deal just to depress the market a little bit and be like, hey, JK, you should probably stay with us. So just FYI.
That's
But
incredible. They offered us 2 WNBA players and 8 ink cartridges. And we're like, no, JK, fuck no. We'll give you 20 million still because they won't give you anything.
have you seen how good the Valkyries have been playing? No.
We've spoken with the coach, though, and they're going to try to go with the obvious rotation. You may not actually have minutes in that. It is what it is. We know you can't rebound, so you don't really fit into that exact thing. Let me change this question. And you and I talked about this off air. But so there's a fear of missing out. There's a FOMO component to this. One of the things that's making it really hard is we're watching all these other fucking teams make these moves and we're not. And watching other teams get better while we stay in place, it's hard. It's a hard thing. So let's change it. Let's say the Warriors did not make a move last year. And instead, they waited till this offseason to make the Jimmy Butler trade. So the roster is exactly the same as it is today. No other changes. The only flip is when the deal was made. The final's complete, free agency opens, and the big trade that's announced is that Jimmy Butler's coming here for the exact pieces we gave up. Does that change this offseason? Do you think Warrior fans would be looking at it totally different and national media would be talking about us? Would this be a different conversation?
Yeah. And I think it would be more negative. There
Oh,
was
there's
enough
this fucking flip.
skepticism. There was enough skepticism that Jimmy Butler wouldn't fit well that people were like, oh, I don't know. Like,
Mm,
does that really change the outcome? Like, he's close enough to what Wiggs's production was that, like, do you make that trade? We have hindsight bias now. We look back and we
right.
were all like, that was the best trade ever.
Top
He
three, both sides.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So I think absent of having that knowledge of knowing how well it works and how we changes our dynamic, we get to the free throw line. We're just a different team with him on the court. We're in ultra panic mode. We're like, not only did we pick one of the worst free agents out there, it's one of the oldest ones, and now we're just an even older team. So I think people would be freaking out because they wouldn't have the sample of knowing that it does work.
That's an interesting take. Because when you first said, yeah, I think it would change it, I was like, yeah, I knew it. I thought I'd like kind of herded you into some optimism. I didn't expect you to say what you said. Here is one of the changes I think that would bring about. And you might be right that people, it would lead to a lot of questions, not all of them like, when do the Warriors win their next championship? You know, like, how does it fit? All the negative things that come. When I listen to national podcasts now, it's not that the Warriors have a lot of questions that are asked about them. It's that no one's talking about the fucking Warriors at all. You know, you like the top four of the West gets announced in different order, but they are generally speaking the same four teams. And then when those national podcasts start figuring out, well, okay, who are the other guys? Who are the other people we need to consider? You hear things about LeBron. You hear things about Dallas and how high they could have come. You even hear shit about New Orleans, and it's not that they think that they're going to creep into the playoffs, but interesting to see what will happen with them. Where's Zion? You know, like all these other questions. The thing you don't hear anymore is Golden State. Like we've kind of fallen off the collective radar, and if nothing else, if we had Jimmy coming in here now and we didn't have any of the backdrop on it, I think they'd at least be talking about us. You know, like we'd be back into the national consciousness, what we've fallen out of almost entirely.
Yeah, I think that's okay. Like let them overlook us again is to me, it's just a repeat of, 2022 where it's like they weren't expecting us to make that run and then we did. I think it's all just going to come down to health. Like even with the teams in the West reloading, I think our veteran presence and if we make it to a top six in the playoffs, I just think we're healthy, one of the teams that everybody absent of OKC will not want to see in the playoffs.
I've got a few follow-ups on that. First, let me ask you this. If you had to bet something significant to you, who wins a championship first, the Valkyries or the Warriors?
Oof.
I mean, we're talking about a fucking expansion team, an
Yeah.
expansion team right now, who also is the highest valued team in the WNBA. And then we're talking about a Warriors team that has a top five player on it, but who's getting older and whose roster doesn't make that much sense.
Yeah. I think if I think it's the Valkyries, short answer. A little bit longer. I think it would be the Warriors if this was another year removed for OKC. Like their rookie contracts still
Yeah.
are in play for this next season, so they probably win it again and do back to back, assuming health. But after that, with all these extensions they just signed, like you can't sign Shea to 70, Chet to 50, and Jalen Williams to 50. And like that's 170 right there of
Right.
your payroll, which, like how do you fill out? Like what made them win was Hartenstein and Caruso and Dort, and like being able to kind of flood teams with numbers and have those really, really strong role players. And you lose those guys, especially after a championship. If they
Yeah.
hadn't won it, maybe they stay because like, oh, I want it. But now that they've tasted it, now they're like, oh, let me just go get my bag. And I don't I don't see them being a dynasty. And I think we could beat them in that situation when they lose some of those core players. But Steph will be a little bit too old, and same with Jimmy and Dre.
Now you got to hope for the disease of me. I'll make it an optimistic answer, even though it's making me sad. I also think it's the Valkyries, but it has more to do with the lack of a hard cap. There's no CBA, the way I understand it, at least in the WNBA, that will prevent Laker from going in there and just cashing out, man. You know, the when we look at building the Warriors roster, what keeps us from really from when I try to do a trade that would bring them back some kind of a superstar, it's the CBA and the hard cap that prevents you. You know, they're just
Mhm.
we can't put these things together anymore. For the WNBA, there isn't a hard cap like that. And I was reading an article about the Valkyries' success, and they're saying normally it would almost be a downside that if you're an expansion team, you try to fucking lose games up front so that you have top picks early on and you develop the roster that way. But what this article pointed out was with a $500 million valuation and an arena that's already being sold out and money that is just coming in droves, the Valkyries don't have to worry about a draft pick. They will be the first destination for every free agent for the next few years,
Yeah.
and so we're talking checkbook championships. So it's not that the Warriors aren't going to do everything they can. It's not that Lacob is going to forget about the Warriors and not pursue it. It's just that the rules haven't caught his ass yet on the WNBA, and I think he will really press that. All right, another question about the Warriors. Is there like a secret move or trade you're hoping for? Like the big names are kind of done. With the Kevin Durant's of the world are gone. The surprise young superstar moves are probably done too. People like Bane, that kind of stuff. Are there other names that you've got your eye on?
Yeah. I think oddly enough, we if we signed Horford, Melton, brought Melton back, and then somehow convinced Bradley Beal to come to us instead of the Clippers, I think that combination um, gives us enough firepower to really make it interesting in the West. One of the challenges for us was just scoring when Steph wasn't the main scorer. And Jimmy, was hurt. So I think just the allowing Beal to be like, okay, you come in off the bench and you just have the green light to shoot, and we'll put defenders all around you. Um, I could see that being really beneficial to his career, and he's already getting paid by Phoenix, so if he's willing to accept a smaller contract with us, I think that puts him in prime position to win another championship, and it also takes him away from the Clippers, which would be scary if he's the replacement for Norman Powell.
It's almost as if we met before the mics went hot. You set me up perfect. Nicely played. So the next couple of questions we're going to smash together. One asked, the Warriors are connected to the high-profile buyout guys, Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal. Are you interested? We covered Lillard last week. You just covered Beal here. Next question says, ESPN is reporting that Golden State is expected to make a run at DeAnthony Elton and Al Horford. Most likely sign JK. If everything GSW supposedly wants to happen happens, do you think we're a top 5 team in the West? And so that's kind of what you were covering, man. So let me tee that up. Let's assume that Al Horford chooses us over retirement. Let's assume DeAnthony Melton signs with us. Let's assume JK reaches a deal. He's in the fold as well. And let's assume that Bradley Beal joins us. And here's quick stats from him. Beal played in 53 games last year, averaged about 32 minutes, 17 points per game, almost 50% from the field, and about 38% from three. So the full 12-man rotation would look something like this. Point guard, Steph and Pods. Shooting guard, Jimmy, DeAnthony Melton, Buddy Hield. Small forward, JK, Bradley Beal, Moses. Power forward, Draymond, maybe Kevin Knox. And center, Quentin Post, TJD. If that's the rotation, and they get a little bit of time to work with one another, and a possible trade with JK come December. If that's the roster heading into the year, do you think we're a top 5 team in the West?
Doesn't Al Horford's in that, right?
Oh yeah, sorry. Let's put
He's a 4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's put Al Horford instead of Kevin Knox. There you go.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think we're the 3 seed.
Really? So
I think,
what?
yeah,
Behind OKC, behind Denver,
yeah.
but ahead of Houston and Minnesota and Dallas?
Maybe not Houston. Maybe we're a 4 seed. Houston's going to be good,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But yeah, revise it. 4 seed. I think OKC, Denver, Houston, and then us. If that's our roster,
Yeah. And everybody stays healthy and all
and
the
everybody
things
stays
that have to
healthy.
go with
Yeah,
it. Just to scare you, I'm going to give you some other teams. Tell me if you'd push them down at all. Minnesota. Are we definitely better than Minnesota?
yeah. I think we're better than them now. I think they're going to have an off year.
Yeah.
Like they played above their head a little bit, and losing Alexander Walker, I think, is gonna be bigger than they're willing to admit.
Well, shit. I mean, hard to justify this since we ended up losing in 5 fucking games. But has Steph's hamstring not gotten hurt? I think we would have beat him last year in the fucking playoffs. And I think the roster we just read is better than last
Yeah.
year's. Clippers, Lakers, better than both LA teams?
Yes, but only the Clippers because we got Bradley Beal and they didn't.
Yeah.
If they get Bradley Beal, I think they're a better team
Yeah.
and they sneak into the 4 spot.
And you kind of have to hope that DeAndre Ayton thing doesn't work at all, which I think is if you had to bet one way or the other, I think that's the safe bet. But if for whatever reason he resurrects, if Ayton looks like he did when Phoenix went to the finals, that Lakers team could be a little bit more dangerous than people are giving them credit for.
I agree. I think who knows if the rumors are true, but if LeBron is really that discontent, I think that impacts some of the locker room. Dorian Finney-Smith was a big ad, and you have to bank on Vanderbilt built being healthy. But otherwise, if you're relying on LeBron at his age and Luca and Reeves to be your defenders around the perimeter, I think you're in trouble. And Luca prefers a center that likes the lobs, and Aiton will probably prefer to stay around the elbow area and shoot those little mid ranges. So I don't know if Jackson Hayes didn't get it done. So I don't know if he's gonna do it again this season.
If I was a Lakers coach, I would demand that Ayton shave his mustache. Just start it over. Like it makes you look like you're like 75. That's probably why you can't catch lobs is that terrible fucking mustache. To our final question, and the one I'm most excited by. So you and I went to the California Classic over the weekend. We watched what can only be described as less than mediocre basketball. Like it's just nice to be in Chase Center and spending the time with you and being close to the water.
It's such a bad game.
All of that was great, but my God, the basketball in there was brutal. And like, really, the only thing that I remember the fans chanting was Dylan Harper, and he was not playing. Like they were just chanting his name, which I don't know. I guess that's the thing that happens with younger fans.
You turned to me and we're like, should we tell them he's not playing? And we're like, we don't want to break their
No, fuck no. At least they had something to root for, dude. Like I don't know who they thought out there was in fact Dylan Harper, but I'm sure that player was very confused by every one of the chants.
I remember you
that they were
turned to me
singing.
and you were like, is it 47-42 in the third quarter right
Oh
now?
my God. At the end of the third quarter. And I was shocked that they had 42. I have no idea how that team got to 42. But what I really wanted to bring up, so there's two games. We watched the first one together. You had to get out of there. And the second game, I was only there for the first quarter, to be fair. But there was like a little stir in the crowd. Like finally there was some action. And when I stood up to see what the hell it was, it's because Steph Curry had come out and was watching some of the first quarter. He was sitting there with his son. And what struck me, in addition to the idea that Steph has reached such a huge place that all he has to do is sit in a chair, and that in itself is worth watching. I mean, like I'd like to tell you I wasn't excited. I was excited. I watched him sit in that chair for I don't know, dude, 5 minutes, and like every move he did, I was like, oh, he's moving. Like he didn't do shit but sit in a chair, but I enjoyed it. But this question isn't about that. The lady who is seated next to Steph, I don't know anything about her. I haven't spoken to her, but her facial expression screamed she was not expecting to be sitting next to Chef Curry. They're like, that was a fucking surprise that suddenly he was there. And she was kind of going through like the mental exercise of like, what happens? Should I say something? Do I just pretend like I don't know him? Do I clap loud? Like, what's up? So the question is this: what would you do? If you're down there, you're just enjoying terrible basketball. The second quarter rolls around. Suddenly, Steph fucking Curry is sitting next to you with his son in his lap. So that's what made me feel like it wasn't planned. Something tells me that if Steph wanted 2 seats to the game, they probably would have given it to him, and instead they only just had one random shit like, yeah, fuck it, go ahead and take it. So in that scenario, do you say anything? And if so, what?
I think you have to say something just to not be awkward. But um, I don't know what I'd say. What I think I would say is definitely different than what I would end up saying in real life. I would hope I would say something like, like you're my favorite player, or, like thanks for making these years, so memorable. And it probably would just come out and just be like, I challenge his son to a bottle throwing contest or something. So
It would be something that made everybody feel hell of awkward if it was me. So
exactly.
same deal, you know. Like I say nothing for a long time and then fire off something like, we both like the color purple. I'm like, what, dude? What the fuck are you talking? Like, how do you know what my favorite color is?
Go
Who are
Valkyries,
you?
right? Am I
You know?
right?
Yeah, hell, yes. What a terrible game this is. The only circumstances because I've had a couple of opportunities like that. I've told the Baron Davis story through this microphone many times. The only time I've done it and it wasn't embarrassing, if there's somebody else I can pass my admiration through. Rob Nen was a very important closer for the San Francisco Giants for a long time. And I once went to a game. He was there with what looked to be either his son or stepson, somebody older. The kid was like 19, 20. And the kid seemingly was disinterested, about being at the game. And I talked to the kid and I told him that man is one of the best closers I have ever seen touch a baseball. And because it big upped Rob in front of this kid he was with, then liked it. And then came to me, oh, you've been a Giants fan, and it was the in between that I needed that off we could go in. If Steph's son was older, you could play that. But like, no, he was the younger of the kid. The kid was like fucking a year old. I
Yeah.
definitely couldn't be like talking to him. It's like, so I noticed that you're a Steph Curry fan. So am I. So yeah, I would want to say something.
How about that Paw Patrol, huh? Yeah.
Which I do like. Like, are you an Owlette fan? Let's get to the bottom of the best version of kids television. But I can see just making it super awkward for all of us, saying some really weird thing, and then he's silent for however long it takes for him to quietly leave and go back to the locker room.
Or quietly tell security and you're going back
Yeah,
to
yeah, hell yeah. Like, he's in my seat. Like, that's my extra seat. Like, what the fuck is going on here?
exactly. Yeah.
Uh,
I don't know. Maybe you just put a jersey on your knee with the Sharpie and just give him a look and just quietly nod and just give him to low key sign something.
it's like weird. I happen to bring this pen. Can you think of any uses for this pen? Or let's see where it goes from here.
Let's not make this a thing for anybody. Just sign that and let's keep moving.
Just move right on. I've got to leave anyway, so if you could just sign this before I get out,
This is
I'd appreciate
terrible basketball,
it.
so I'm going to leave very soon.
You may have noticed they only have 42 points, and it's time for us to get the fuck out of
And
here.
Dylan Harper is not even playing, despite what those four
Yeah.
kids behind us.
I don't know if you were confused like I was. I've searched this entire court. Dylan Harper is not out there. I know that for sure. For sure. MT, we've got a hard stop. Let's honor it. Big fun, man. True every week. Out there, you want to help us out? Hop onto Patreon. You want to get us a question? You can shoot us an email. That's to the Huddle at warriorshuddle.com. We're also on social media with all of that in mind. Go Warriors. Hopefully, see you real soon.